welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. The Candy Kingdom is a podcast for littles and bigs, where we provide resources and support and a safe space to learn together. So sit back, grab your sippy, stuffy and patsy, and let's play! Hi, welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. Thanks for tuning in. We've got lots of fun in store today. We're going to be starting our mini-series on vetting a caregiver and the steps we encourage you to take when negotiating a new dynamic with a potential CG. But before we jump into that, Misty, what's in the news this week?
I'm glad you asked. Well, last week we spoke about who would be buying Tumblr, and, you know, the whole thing about Pornhub being the main company that's interested.
Well, that is publicly talking about being interested anyway.
Yeah. But everyone is apparently trying to petition Cards Against Humanity to buy Tumblr, which I think would be awesome. Like,
yeah,
they're a fairly, I don't know, I just feel like they're a fun company, obviously, to create those kind of cards. But, like, I've seen some of the other hijinks that they've gotten up to before, or, like, read about them. Like, when they gave away, at some kind of convention, they had a table filled with free cards. And, they said, you know, you can donate if you want to, but they're totally free, and then kind of documented what happened. And then once they sold out, which was, like, in an hour or something, I think they turned their booth into, like, registering for voting or something, which I thought was so cool. It was like,
that is so cool.
Yeah, so,
wow.
And then they talked about, like, some of the donations that they got, which was, of course, just, like, weird stuff that people, you know, had, and one person, like, stuffed, like, 5 of the sets in their bags, that would have been me. I love a bargain, so.
You do. You really do.
So, yeah, I think it would be really cool if they bought it, and they would be able to, like, get so much material from Crazy Tumblr, like.
Could you imagine
posts.
The cards? Oh my god, I'm just thinking about some of the memes now, and it would be the best.
There's just, like, surprise Pikachu, like, as a response to something, yeah.
Yeah, just a surprise Pikachu, like, nothing written, or, like, maybe it would be, like, either written as surprise Pikachu, or a picture of a surprise Pikachu.
Surprise Pikachu. And, like, in my own life, like, I use that GIF so much. Like, the other day, oh my gosh, this is probably gonna cause an uproar, but the other day I found out that, like, the queen has more than one child.
What?
Yeah, I thought she only had Prince Charles or whatever. And then I found out she's got 4 freaking children. I was like, oh.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. And I live in a small country.
Really?
Oh, I'm a bad citizen.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't really pay much attention to the royal family. I don't even remember why I Googled it. I think we were watching Antiques Roadshow, and there was, like, they were showing a bunch of, like, royal memorabilia. And I was like, who are these other people? And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, snap. So there you go. I dropped a surprise Pikachu in the chat that I was using.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, so that's that. Then there is the story of my missing dips.
Yes, let's get an update on your missing diapers. What's the tea?
I'm so sad. So I opened an investigation with the Post, and they were like, no, the driver 100% dropped them off. And then I reached out to the company I got them from, and they were just not keen to be of help. They were just like, too bad, so sad. But I had in my upset that, like, 2 days after they were supposed to be delivered, I just went on and ordered. I dropped an insane amount of money on another pair. So they came and they were delivered into my hands, and I was so happy, like, because I'm usually not home when the post comes in, but I had started work late that day. And I was just like, I just snatched them, and I was like, thank you. So I've got those, and they're super cute. So I'm happy. May or may not be wearing them right now. I don't know.
Oh, okay, excellent. No, I like that. Good. So yeah. Oh well, you know what? I actually read online this person like had some vintage dips that they either found in like storage or they had them for a long time and they were like, oh, I can make like $10,000 off of this. I read about it on FetLife. It was weird. And I'm like, don't extort your community, friend. Come on. Like, be nice.
$10,000?
Yeah, off of like a couple of packs of dips. He's like, people will pay the money for vintage dips and like adult size ones. And I'm like, all right.
Jeez, what are they? Were they made by Jesus? Like, why? What's so
frankly,
special
I don't know.
about
I
them?
think like if you, oh, hang on a second, my cat is like, come here, you
wants to be on the podcast.
So I have actually a news item of my own, which kind of relates to our Patreon. So something I am lucky enough to be able to do in my current living situation is I can actually make myself a playroom, which I'm so excited about. So right now I have a person living in the house that's a guest, actually my brother, and he's going to be moving into his own house soon. And when he does that, I'm actually going to turn the room that he's in into a playroom, which used to be my office anyway. So today I purchased something from, we call it Gumtree. It's the equivalent of Craigslist, which is really funny because it's like Australians call it Gumtree, of course.
Yeah, I don't get it.
But I wanted to get something that was similar to like a mat, like you know how they have mats they put on like down for babies and stuff like that. Yeah, I wanted to get something similar like that. So I got something called a shikibuton, which is that was French pronunciation of a Japanese word. I don't know how to.
I was like, I think that was Japanese, but.
Yes, well, it's a Japanese thing, but it's basically like a floor mat. You know how the Japanese people sometimes, well, quite often actually, sleep on the floor mats that they can then fold up and put away, and it's a part of that minimalist sort of lifestyle. But it's also in their tradition to sleep on like either tatami mats or these futon things. Yeah. So I got one of these, and it's a queen size one, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like perfect for like a play mat. So that's what I got. So I will be putting together a visual series, like videos documenting my progress of making this playroom. So if you are not following us on Patreon, it's as cheap as like $1 a month, and you'll have access to that whole series on top of other things which we have, like heaps of bonus fun content. So yeah.
Awesome.
That's my little update, which I'm super excited about.
Nice. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to be seething with jealousy the whole time, but...
Yeah, you will.
Yes, and I may suggest things if I'm feeling nice and whatever.
Look, I mean, the whole point about putting it on Patreon is I would really love for people to collaborate with me and be like, yo, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I kind of am a bit of a weeaboo, though, so if you want to suggest aesthetic things, make them as Japanese as possible, because
I'm also a weeaboo. Gosh, we are terrible.
Yeah, we are. Anyway. So let's get into today's episode because we've got some exciting things to talk about.
Yes, but before that, we also are going to be doing a giveaway. So we're going to do details and like what the giveaway entails and how to enter and all of that at the end of this episode. So
yes, so stay tuned. But it is a good episode which you should listen to regardless.
Yes, agreed.
Let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about vetting. So we're starting our mini-series on vetting, and today we're going to be talking about the pre-work that is important to do to set up a successful dynamic, but in terms of your participation. Yeah. So, Misty, did you want to run us through what vetting is, basically?
Yeah. So vetting is basically a dating background check, making sure the person is safe, that you two are compatible both in BDSM and vanilla ways, that they understand and cooperate with the values and inherent expectations of BDSM and kink play, and that they aren't fake doms because
fake doms.
Such nice.
Oh my god, fake doms.
There's such a prevalence of fake doms, and it's really because littles are vulnerable and special and need to be protected. So I just
correct.
Fake doms make my skin crawl. And if you're listening to this, fake dom, we're on to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Although you probably wouldn't be because that requires you to learn stuff.
We will talk about in a moment. Yes. So we're going to split this. We're going to split up this pre-work session into two main sections that we've identified, which is self-awareness and dynamic-specific questions that you need to be asking of yourself mainly. Yeah. So this is before interacting with a caregiver. This is before posting an advertisement or going to a munch or getting hooked up with someone.
However you are looking for someone, you need to. It would be good if you do this work beforehand.
Yes. Yeah. And look, as always, we are not the authority on this. We're just two littles who have done this, and we've made mistakes and had our fingers burned and
had to deal with the aftermath.
Yes, we touched the hot stove when we were told not to. So we want to avoid you touching the hot stove and burning yourself when we could just say, hey, don't touch the hot stove. Yeah. It's hot.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I think, like, setting this all up for us was a good exercise for us as well, for ourselves. Like, we really put some thought into, like, what we should be doing, ideally. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just so you know, my cat is going crazy today. So if you hear something up the hallway, that's just Lego running around being a silly. So anyway,
I've got my dog keeping me company as well, and so you might hear her tail thumping. But
okay, cool, nice.
The animals are just like really into our podcast.
They just really believe in the importance of vetting, I think, and they're just making themselves heard. All right, so let's get started. So self-awareness, let's talk about that as our first section. So it breaks down into a couple of categories. The first one that I think is the most important, and I will say that all of this stuff is kind of the questions you should be asking yourself about like vanilla relationships as well.
Yes,
but anyway.
100%.
Well, except for like who's going to be the dominant and who's going to be the little, but like So the first thing that we identified, we both agree on 100%, top of the priority, is what is your love language and what love language do you respond to?
Yes.
So for me, my love language is doing. You know that I have huge crush on you and that I want to be a little, if I start doing stuff for you, like if you're like, oh, I need to do this, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go do it for you.
Yes.
Or if, I really should organize this, I'll organize it for you. I've made a spreadsheet on Google Drive and I'll share it with your email address. And they're like, where'd you get my email address? I'm like, I found it on LinkedIn. So like, you know.
Oh, I love that. Yes. So similar. It's just like that proactive service.
Yep.
That's such a good one. Would you say you have anything else?
Cats. Yes, cats agrees with the love language. Yeah, look, I mean, I think I'm a bit of a sock emotionally. Like, I just don't know very well how to express emotions. All of the time, I'm like passing off jokes and like lol whenever I'm trying to talk about the feelings because it's really uncomfortable. But behavior is really big for me. Like, I will behave. I can express emotion if I absolutely am, gun to my head and have to. But I am better at doing emotion. So, and because I'm a little bit on the spectrum, like talking about autism spectrum and kind of tending towards Asperger's, I think not that everybody who's on the spectrum has a difficult time with emotions, but I really do, and I think it's related to that. So if somebody else is really good at saying their emotions, I can kind of mimic that behavior, but if it's just me behaving in my own way, it's definitely more of a behavioral love than a verbal spoken affectionate thing.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's what I respond to as well. Like if a person's like, oh, I love you, but then they're like, don't spend time with me, don't text me, don't make any effort, don't behave in any of the ways that I'll talk about later on, then I'm like, well, do you?
yes actions speak so much louder than words, honestly. And I think that's a huge part of this dynamic regardless. Like, you have to be willing to show up. You can't just talk, basically. And for me, like, definitely acts of service, also my love language. I love doing stuff for people. Anything that I can do to make your life easier, like favors, I just like doing that kind of stuff. And for me, it's also a consideration thing, so, or like a thoughtfulness. And then that goes into my other thing, which are gifts. I really love getting stuff for people, especially stuff that I can kind of customize, or like, you know, I'm buying it because they've said something, or because I know they'll like it, or because of something that we've shared. So I really love getting gifts. I do that all the time.
If someone drops, "This is my birthday," I will, without a doubt, write it down, put it in my diary, and next time it's their birthday, I'll be like, "Yo, I have the day off work, and oh, what's this? It's the thing you mentioned 6.5 weeks ago that you said you really wanted, and oh, something like, you know, I am that person." It's kind of stalkerish in a way, but
yeah, it's fine, honestly.
That's why you have to have compatible love languages. Because somebody like me would be like, "Oh my god, that's so nice."
Yeah.
But for somebody else, it might be like, "Oh my god, I'm calling the police."
So, like, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit in terms of my previous relationship, which I bring up a lot. I'm sorry, guys. But it's like my main point of reference, pretty much. But like, you know, for this person's birthday, they were studying to be a pilot, and they were in their first year. So on their birthday, I pretended that I had no money, and I was like, "Let's just drive to the beach and we'll have a picnic." And then what actually I did was I had booked for him to do a trial flight, like to basically get to go on a small airplane with a pilot, and he got to fly for a little bit.
Wow, that is so thoughtful.
Yeah.
You're a bae. I want to be in a relationship with you.
It was really good, and he got a video and everything, and like, I was sweating bullets the entire time because the weather was turning, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to cancel," but it turned out perfectly. He even got to fly a little bit extra time, so that was really good. And then for my birthday, I got an office chair. So our love languages weren't very compatible. Is what I'm saying.
Did you say
there.
That you needed an office chair though?
Like, I probably might have said it a long time ago, but like, you know, whatever. I got an office chair. I already had one that I was making do with, but you know, I'll take it.
And that's practical. That's a practical gift.
Yes, exactly.
And look, that's the thing. Love language is so different for different people. And it doesn't mean, like, I think a lot of the time, especially when I was younger, and I see this in immature relationships where people don't have a grasp on this concept, different people will love you differently. And it doesn't mean that they are bad or not good partners. It just means you don't recognize their love language, and they don't recognize what you need as part of your love language in terms of receiving. Both are valid, and it's a compatibility thing, and you need to be aware of it to actually be able to negotiate it, both in vanilla and kink.
Doesn't mean you have to break up. It just means, you know, you need to actively work at understanding each other's love languages.
And there is a lot of research and information, books, literature about love languages. So just Google it and you'll find so much stuff.
Well, we'll probably drop something in the show notes for you, like a link to...
yeah, probably. We'll find a resource we like.
Yeah.
Here's me. Just look it up yourself. Like,
stop being so lazy.
See, I'm the office chair and you're the gift. Anyway. So anyways.
Right.
What else?
And then my last one is obviously going to be like time spent together. I need that. So I think that kind of leads into our next point about how committed can you be to a relationship.
So and this is not just in terms of like whether you're going to be poly or monogamous or anything. We're talking about time, money, energy, mental health, you know, all the things that are hugely important that often get swept under the rug when you're into a relationship that you really want to be a part of and you really want to get into and you're willing to sacrifice for. These are the things I find that get like on the chopping block straight away. So
and like with the time thing, like I work a job where I'm like pretty much 9 to 5 equivalent. So I see a lot of people, it's like a common thing here, fly in, fly out. Basically what that means is they work for 2 weeks straight and then they have 2 weeks off. And I often think that would be a problem for me. I don't know, because I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 whole weeks with basically only, phone contact or, Skyping. But then the other side of it appeals to me, like 2 weeks together.
But you're also working during those 2 weeks.
That's true.
FIFO relationships are really tricky. I've never been in one, but I know people that have, and it's like you're long distance for 50% of the time, and then not long distance for the other 50%.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. It is tricky, isn't it? But it's manageable, and if you discuss how you're going to manage it at the start of your relationship, then, it can be really rewarding even still.
Yeah.
I like a lot of alone time, actually, because I'm quite introverted. So for me, that would be great. It'd be like, go away for 2 weeks, see ya, and then when they come back, I'd be like so clingy and needy. And then by the time that 2 weeks is up, I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah, I'm over this. That's so funny. Whereas I pretty much want to be around people all the time.
You're very overwhelming, I will say. No, I'm joking.
Hey, I don't mind. Like, I've been told this since I was a child. It's like, I just don't shut up ever. I'm just constantly going. So
I was like that when I was younger, and then my parents would always say, you can talk the ears off a rabbit with a mouthful of rocks underwater.
Oh, wow. That is
which is a really convoluted way of saying
expression.
Yeah, my parents are really spicy, but that's me. But I don't know, I kind of became more introverted and my best self as I got older, and now I'm not so. I'm more of a listener and a watcher than a talker out louder. But anyway, so yeah.
Mental health is also a big thing as well.
Yes.
Or just talk about how you manage your mental health and how you're gonna what's that gonna look like in your relationship. Like for me, I have OCD. Sometimes I go into spirals and I need a lot of reassurance, which apparently is the opposite of what you're supposed to do. But, I don't have the tools to like manage it professionally with the appropriate like golden standard therapy, because where I'm at, no one offers it or knows about it. So I basically cope with it like through medication and through normal therapy. So yeah, it means I go into these spirals and I just end up seeking lots of reassurance. So I would need to disclose that to my partner and make sure that or potential partner, and make sure that that's something they're comfortable with. It's not going to be too taxing for them to say the same thing to me pretty much over and over again in a different way until I calm down.
And that's really responsible on your part. And I think that this is kind of out of the scope for our podcast. But what I will say is, and this is as a person who also has mental health problems that can affect my interpersonal relationships, you have to be accountable for your own mental health at all times and how it impacts others and how it impacts you.
Yes, that was a huge lesson I just learned. Like, you need to be considerate of other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of focus at the moment put on mental health needs to be less stigmatized, and we need to have open conversations about it, and we need to, put it in public spaces and make it less of a taboo. But on the same page, and this is something I actually learned at work, because I wouldn't bring my anxiety to work, but sometimes I would talk to people at work about it, and they're like, you never know what they're dealing with at home. Maybe they come to work and this is like their oasis away from their own anxiety or somebody else's anxiety that they deal with. So you need to be considerate of that. And I'm like, oh shoot, yes, I do. So I think it goes both ways. It is really important to be considerate and understanding and supportive of a person who has mental health issues. But as a person who has mental health issues, I need to make sure that the person I am going to be involved with fully understands what that means.
Yes,
and
is capable of handling it as well.
And some people just aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of people that I know that don't understand anxiety or depression or how it works or how it affects them is huge. Like, something I've recently identified, well, not recently identified, but started talking about is, so I feel emotions as sensations. Like, physically feel my feelings. Yeah. And I thought
Everyone did that.
No, they don't,
Nope.
actually. That's different and strange. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't get, like, when you're feeling nervous, your chest doesn't feel like it's going to collapse and your veins don't feel like they're, like, sucking in on themselves. And,
Whoa,
when you feel really excited, you feel like your heart's pounding. It's huge. And I didn't, like, realize that it was, like, I knew that this is how I felt things, and I've been able to identify that. But I didn't realize that it was unusual until very recently. And so it's amazing how much stuff is normal to me that isn't normal to other people. And I always run around thinking that I'm the typical one and that those who are normies are not. No, it's me. I'm the weird one. So anyways, you have to really make sure that your prospective partner understands you need to understand what your own boundaries are in terms of time, money, energy, and mental health. And you need to make sure that you're in a good place with accepting, understanding, and identifying the elements that are going to be hard in a relationship and what's going to work. And then you need to also be able to verbalize that to your partner in advance so that they know.
Yeah. And then the other important thing is, why are you looking for this relationship and what do you hope to get out of it? We have to make sure that we are looking for basically the right reasons. Something that I really don't agree with, though, is that you need to have your stuff 100% together before you can get into a romantic relationship. And one of my favorite podcasts, Loving BDSM, the submissive made a really good point about it. So she has been in this relationship and all of a sudden she's been diagnosed with, or not all of a sudden, but she's been diagnosed with anxiety. And basically what she said is, does that mean that she now has to end the relationship because she doesn't have her stuff all 100% together? No, because so then why do we put that on people that they need to have their stuff 100% together to be able to get into a relationship? It doesn't make sense to say that.
I think also from a CGL perspective, your caregiver is going to want to have something to work on with you. I feel like not always, but for me at the very least, if I'm ever in that sort of relationship, I need to bring things to the table because caregivers like helping and providing a nurturing space for growth and development. And if I'm like, no, I'm chill, it's like, oh, well, what are we going to do then?
That's how this relationship kind of thrives, but okay.
Like, hey, I really suck at drinking enough water. Can you help me be accountable to that? Yep, sure. I want to see your 8 glasses a day then. Stuff like that is really... It's little, but it's huge at the same time. And it shows that in-depth, hey, I'm focusing on you, hyper-focusing actually, because I care about you and I want to make sure that you're doing okay. So bring those little things to your caregiver if you want to. I mean, that's the other thing. And this kind of goes on to our next point about what do you bring to the table and what are your strengths and weaknesses. Do you want to build or improve on your weaknesses, and are you willing to be vulnerable with your caregiver?
And put in the work as well. You have to put in the work. You can't just be like, you handle all of this for me and then sit back and be a pillow princess.
Which, do you know what? That is the best part about all of the CGL for me is, okay, let's talk about this. Let's analyze, let's debrief, let's make plans, let's make little lists. Like, I love all of that sort of organizing stuff, which goes back to my love language of doing and organizing and I'm a bit into organization's like a hobby of mine, which I know sounds nerdy as hell, but whatever. So
I think we've already outed ourselves as nerds, in episode 1, so it's okay.
Yeah. Episode 1, welcome to the Candy Kingdom. I'm a huge nerd, and so is Misty.
Perfect.
Yeah. But I definitely think that you don't have to do those things to be in a CGL relationship. That's not necessary. That's just what I like.
Yeah.
But I've identified that, and I go into a relationship knowing that I like that. You need to identify what you like about and why you want to be in it before you walk into a relationship.
Yes.
Yep.
Totally agreed. So thinking about your strengths.
What about you? What are you looking for? What are you looking for, Misty?
Me? I am not looking for anything right now. I think I'm kind of just focusing on myself really at this point and on my career. If someone happens to stroll in, that would be amazing, but you're
not actively looking?
No, not really. I'm kind of over the active looking. I mean, I accidentally dated a criminal, so I think
that
I'm a
will
bit...
be Patreon content, I think. But
yes, I should
happens.
share that. So I think I'm just kind of over actively looking right now, and I'm just kind of having fun doing this and other stuff, pretty much.
Yeah. And you don't have to be in a, I think this is huge. We need to say this. You don't need to be in a CGL relationship to be actively participating in your own CGL.
Yes.
Like
so
lifestyle.
important.
You can do so much outside of it. And, make your own little space. Give yourself your own list of rules. Be doing the self-awareness stuff. Mother and nurture yourself or parent yourself. You can do those things. And it's just as valuable and just as rewarding.
Yes.
So, that's
find people
me.
to share it with as well. That's important.
Community,
yes,
hugely
yeah.
important. Link to the kickdown. No, I think the last thing that I would really focus on as part of my self-awareness pre-work before getting into thinking about dynamic stuff is, what are the non-negotiables? What are the must-have types of things you need in a relationship? What are your hard limits? What are your soft limits? And what are you actually willing to compromise on? And is it sustainable? And what are you not willing to compromise on?
Like, I wouldn't be able to compromise on needing some form of daily communication. Like, that's just not okay for me. Like, I need some sort of contact every single day, and I would prefer it to be a phone call.
And that's really prevalent, especially for online relationships and long distance kink, which is hugely prevalent. And I need rules.
Yes.
I need some rules and some expectations so that I love that. There was a quote from the very first episode where we were talking about one of the littles in the kick group who doesn't have rules, just suggestions. And you're like, oh, I suggest I do this. Well, my suggestion is no. And I thought that was so funny. So I need that accountability, otherwise I won't do it.
And I need consequences, and I need frequent check-ins. You can't just leave me to, flap in the wind, I always say, because you can't just... That doesn't make me feel taken care of. And then I just probably won't even do it, because I'm just like, well, they don't care, so why should I? Exactly.
That's a conversation about wanting to feel conquered, and that's something we'll talk about in a book review coming up.
Yes.
But for CGs, that's an actual thing. Sometimes when littles act up, it's because they actually want you to flex your dominance.
Testing those
and
boundaries.
You're not doing it, and they don't know how to ask for it, so that's why they do it.
Yeah.
So not always it's because they're, not upholding their end of the bargain, it's because you're not upholding yours.
Ooh, spicy. I like it.
Spicy. Spicy Lace taken on the DM. Okay, sorry, let's go on.
All right, so now we're moving on to the dynamic specific things. Well, first of all, you need to figure out what your role is. That's pretty important. Yep. Are you a little or are you a caregiver?
Or are you a switch?
Yes. And if you are a switch, do you have a role that tends to come out more?
Yep. And what role do you want to explore in your dynamic?
I mean, I'm not a switch, so I'm not too sure on how to speak on that. But I think I've heard that some switches prefer a specific role depending on their mindset, which makes sense. But then it's like, how do you deal with it when your partner doesn't switch? Or how do you deal with it if they're, you're in little space and then they're also in little space? Like, what's that going to look like for you guys?
Yes.
So,
and that's why you have to negotiate and also meta talk within within the dynamic.
Yeah.
I'm really quickly going to talk about what meta talking is, because I think we can't
mention it.
Not explain that at this point.
Yeah.
So basically, meta talking is the idea of talking about talking. So it was an idea that's been appropriated from academics, where people actually cooperatively discuss how they're going to communicate. And it was borrowed by BDSM, and to talk about sort of in an abstract way about the dynamic while being sort of temporarily removed from it. Yes. So it's an open discussion, and it has to be respected as part of rolling negotiation and a demonstration of mutual respect. So you can actually be, if you're going to say, hey, right now I'm little and I feel like you're little as well, what, I need you to be big, or hey, let's both be little and play together, and how does the protocol change, and what are we going to do? It's possible, as long as you discuss it in advance and you don't just all of a sudden be like, hey, by the way, I'm little now, so are you, hey, because that other little might be destabilized because that's not what they were expecting. You have to know what to expect, and you have to know, like, being able to expect what's going to happen is a huge part of feeling safe in this environment. So yes, that's why meta talking and negotiation is important.
Yes. And
damn, I'm on tangents today. I really just need to relax, I think.
It's fine. I don't mind a good tangent. I mean, what was I described as once? A sugar high squirrel on cocaine. So I think I'm doing relatively well today.
Thank you. So yes, we were talking about what is your role, little caregiver, if you're going to switch. Would you be okay with switching? And what is your identity outside of CGL, or just sort of within BDSM in general?
So like, I'm a subtype. Like, I am a service sub. So that's another identity that I have. I'm also what I like to call a baby masochist. So I like a bit of pain as well. There's certain, I like a bit of protocol. Like, even though it's a very relaxed, CGL is a very relaxed dynamic, I also need a little bit of protocol in, like, my expectations and what I'm supposed to do in certain scenarios, just so that my anxiety doesn't, act up. So those would all be things that I would be bringing, when I'm thinking about what I want. It kind of reflects on what I am as well. So if I like a bit of pain, I would want my person to be a bit of a sadist, or I would want them to thrive a little bit on protocol. I would want them to give me things to do to serve them. So,
And it's good to know what you like. And it's important as well to be aware of that, because if it's not met, then you'll find yourself being unhappy and kind of not knowing why.
Yes. Ooh, so true.
Yeah. I am a little as well, and I am also a rope bunny, and I have a rigger who I'm in a, like, we don't have a relationship, it's completely platonic, but it is a really intense relationship when we're tying, and he has a wife, she comes to all the events, I love her and she loves me, and we're like best friends. She's a sweetheart and a dream, and my rigger, he's like, I love to tie, but she doesn't want to be tied. She calls herself vanilla with a side of chocolate. So she's not kinky. She's not in BDSM, but she supports him 100%, because she's like, if I don't like those things, but he does, and he doesn't get fulfilled, he's either going to do it behind my back, or he's going to be really unhappy. So he may as well just do it, and I'll be comfortable with it and involve myself, and it'll be good. So she's got a really mature outlook on that. So yeah, I need to have a partner that is willing to understand, I have a rigger. I'm not going to give that up, because shibari and being a rope bunny is super important to my well-being mentally and physically, because it's a very physically active sort of thing. And you're going to have to just be okay with that. I'm not willing to I'm not willing to compromise on that. And that's an identity outside of my CGL. So, that's something that I know going into anything that I need to be like aware of, and this is a limit I've decided I'm not willing to push or to compromise on. So yeah,
and that makes sense. Like, if it's something that you feel like you need, which we have to differentiate between wants and needs. So then also think about, is your dynamic going to include power exchange?
Yes.
And if it is, who holds the power in the dynamic that you want, the little or the caregiver, which is something new. I've been chatting to someone who is a little dom, which I really want to get her on the show, because I just think it's so cool.
It's such a cool idea that I do not understand even a little bit.
No,
and
I don't.
Am so into it. Like, what is this?
Exactly. So that's something that you need to consider as well. Or are you going to just be, you can still switch within your power exchange as well, That would be kind of interesting. Sometimes the little has the power, and sometimes the caregiver
Oh my
does.
God, could you imagine? The caregiver gets their nails painted, and they're going to be watching Disney, and we're having cake for dinner. And
that kind of already happens, I reckon, sometimes. It's like, Daddy, please let me paint your nails, like, kind of
yeah,
thing.
I'm gonna do your makeup today. That's just happening. Why? Because I have the control.
Yeah, man. So, just
it's a bad decision, actually.
And then what type of relationship are you going to have? Is it going to be online only, which definitely not for me, but, that might work for someone else. Is it going to be bedroom only? Is it going to be 24/7, which, again, probably wouldn't work for me, but, like, just consider what type of relationship is it going to be. Is it going to be casual, long-term? Is long distance okay? Yes. So some people can cope with long distance. Yeah.
And is it going to be permanently long distance, or do you actually have plans to meet up in real life? And would you want to meet before committing to that relationship as well?
So true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna say this. Please, if you're gonna like pick up your life and move halfway across the world to be with someone, please meet them first.
Yeah, I have experience in this, and we will talk about this in an episode where we're going to actually focus on long distance kink relationships, how they work, how can you make them work, what are the red flags, all that sort of thing. And as somebody who has been in a relationship where that's happened, that has not gone well, I can tell you, please be careful. Yes. Be really, really careful.
Oh, goodness. So that's that. What characteristics do you want your caregiver or little to have are pretty important as well. Like,
so huge.
Is a sense of humor important? Like, is playfulness important? Do you want them to be a little bratty kind of thing? So,
not to say that you're only going to settle for your ideal dom and nothing else, because then you kind of close yourself off to having an adventure if you're going to go in with an expectation that has to be met 100%. And I see this a lot, doms talking about, I'm not going to be your perfect dom, so you're going to have to just accept me as I am. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess what have you been through that's made you be like that? You need to just relax a little, but it does have a point, go in with an expectation of what you want, but be willing to be open to maybe finding out things you didn't know were really important to you that change your life. That's so true. Like having Jim Carrey be Dr. Robotnik in the new Sonic movie. I didn't know I needed that blessing in my world, that purity, and I do now, and I would never have considered it before. So you live and you learn. I'm so excited for that movie. I'm going to be the cosplay midnight viewing of Gold Class of that movie. I cannot wait.
I'm really embarrassed for you right now.
Look, you can be. I don't care. I am lit a Sonic fan. You don't even know.
That is hilarious. Oh my God. Please paint yourself blue.
Great.
That would be amazing. And take pictures.
Look, I'll put pictures of whatever I do on the Patreon.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. What else?
So yes. Vanilla aspects of your relationship. Okay, so this is huge.
Yeah.
We can't be kinky all the time, even in a 24/7 dynamic. Sometimes you have to be yourself. You need a break. You need to just get off the protocol and just I'm just going to watch a movie and eat an entire bag of chips tonight, and I don't need to be told not to. I need to be able to exercise my adult autonomy so I don't get lost in my littleness forever.
Yes.
That's really important. So it's important that your vanilla attributes match your partner's vanilla attributes, and you need to identify what vanilla attributes do I have and what am I going to be taking into a relationship.
Yeah, like I'm a freaking animal lover. We need to be able to be to get as many freaking animals as I want, pretty much.
Yep.
Just like 5 dogs, 16 cats. It's gonna be fine. It's
like as a minimum, good. I think. Yeah, you gotta have. I think 16 is a good number, actually.
Thank you. I thought so too. Room. I just pulled it out, but
that's a good one. I think it's good. I think other aspects are like, do you want to have kids?
Oh my God.
Do you have religious ideology that you want to stick to? How do you like to keep your house if you're going to live together? Are you a clean person or a messy person? And is your prospective partner a clean person or a messy person? Like,
yes. What's your
that's
family
important.
like?
Yeah.
How do you make friends, and what do you like do with your friends and things like that?
Yep. Would your friends be accepting and willing to, like, are you going to be out about your relationship with your friends, or are you going to be discreet about it? And that leads directly into our next point. Is this going to be a public or a private negotiation and relationship? Because actually, some people, it's a private one, and that's fine. And it's not about being daddy's special little secret. It's about, they might have a relationship, like a family, a family or a job or things that, if they got outed, or if you had to be in a public space with them like that, they could lose a lot, Yeah. There is a huge stigma that we're working to reduce, one day at a time.
Yes.
But it is real. It is there. I have a friend who was on FetLife and somebody outed them and they lost their job. And that's real life stuff. That's their means to, like, live. So that sometimes someone might say, I need it to be in a private relationship. This has to be discreet. And that's not because they don't feel proud of you or they're embarrassed by you. It's like, hey, this is my life and I want to engage in this, but it has to be on these terms.
And you have to decide if you're okay with that as well.
And also, you have to be understanding that if you're going to be the person saying, hi, I need it to be like this, that someone might say, well, sorry, that's not enough for me. And you have to be like, well, sorry, it can't happen then. You've got to be straight up about it.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we just want to wrap up with, the importance of writing this all down if you can. And it's also about kind of setting your intentions as well, putting good things out into the universe a little bit. But, you want to have a frame of reference. And when you meet someone, it's so easy to get swept up.
Oh, so much.
And I think having this written down gives you that reference while you're looking. It reminds you of what's important to you without getting swept up by what the person is saying.
It helps you hold yourself accountable to your own needs, and it's important to be firm about it, because at the end of the day, your brand new relationship shine will eventually wear off, and then you get left with the meat and bones of it, and that is what you set up now. So if you don't do this thoroughly, think about these things, you're going to probably end up in a relationship where you've made compromises that you didn't think you were going to be compromising, and this could make you really unhappy.
Yes.
And then you've wasted everyone's time, including yours, and possibly people can get hurt, and, that's not what we want.
Yeah, exactly. And we will be helping you guys out a little bit with writing it down because we are going to be making checklists or just like worksheets that you can fill out.
So it is really common to have a contract in BDSM relationships, and CGL can and should have that as well. And this is why we're talking about this, why we're doing this mini series, because we want littles to be, particularly littles, to be a bit more proactive about this. So we're going to be talking about the negotiation checklists next week and how to set up a successful dynamic, but we will be releasing somewhere, I'm not sure exactly where we're going to be doing this, but an actual PDF document of a checklist that you can actually go through with your CG perspective person or the little and say, hey, these are the things I'm considering, what matches, what doesn't, let's set up a contract. And that just keeps everyone protected. And we'll be putting up this checklist sometime during the week on the Patreon as sort of like a little pre-bonus feature, but it will be available to the public after the mini-series is finished, which will be, we suspect, in about 3 weeks.
Yes. So I think that's all for this week. We've ended up chatting for quite a while. But now on to the giveaway.
Whee! So my giveaway bells announcement.
So to celebrate launching our podcast and to thank our current listeners, we are going to be giving away a $50 gift card to one lucky listener. So basically this can be for any online store that allows you to purchase gift cards. And has little or caregiver gear. Like maybe you've been eyeing a particular onesie or a pacifier for yourself or for your little for months, but for whatever reason couldn't afford it. Well, here is your chance to get some new gear.
Yeah.
So there are going to be lots of ways, different ways to enter, and multiple entries mean multiple chances of winning.
Yes.
So
we're going to be stacking them chances. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So you get 20 entries for reviewing us on SoundCloud, Spotify, or iTunes. And this really helps our platform by leaving reviews about the podcast. So please do that, and you get 20 big boys for entering on this one. Mm-hmm. You get 3 entries for retweeting or tagging us on an Instagram or Twitter post, and we're going to be posting something on those platforms, so you can repost a little graphic. You get 2 entries for liking episodes on SoundCloud or tweets on and Instagram posts. So what we're going to do basically is we've got this fantastic little website that just randomly draws the winner, so we'll put everybody's entries in, and good luck.
yeah So we're planning to announce the winner in 2 weeks in our 5th episode. So the date that we'll be releasing this is on the 12th of May 2019. So 2 weeks from now we'll be announcing the winner, so make sure you tune in.
12th of May, that's tomorrow.
Yes, that's when we release the episode.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying that the winners will be announced tomorrow, and I'm like,
no.
Mr. Girl, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, just do it right now, everyone, quickly.
Shoot, there's me. I need some coffee. Anyway, so we'll need the winner to contact us at our email address at thecandykingdom@gmail.com, so we can have your details and where to send the lucky winner their $50.
Yes, so looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you guys engage with us a little bit more.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at The Candy Kingdom and all of our social media. So have a sweet week, and we will catch you next time, Candy Crew.